Om Shanti to everyone. Greetings of peace to all. So today, as I was sitting ready to write some words and reflections, a quote came to me that really had an effect on me. And I'd like to just give the quote. And it's a real reflective quote. And it's to all the mothers and fathers. And the quote was, "Do your eyes light up when your child enters the room?" And it conjures up all sorts of thoughts, and it conjured up all sorts of thoughts to me too. And so I took it a little bit further today with that quote. And I said to myself, do my eyes light up when I enter Mother Nature? How does my heart feel when I enter Mother Nature? Does Mother Nature have an effect from what I'm thinking and being? And how does Mother Nature light up when I attend to her needs? So it's a beautiful reflection on, how really I as an individual am affecting Mother Nature. And I then conjured up some memories of childhood, because I was a real nature freak, actually, as a child. And I had the memories of often going along out in nature and looking for all the ponds. And I'd look for the little tadpoles. And I'd bring the tadpoles back to my siblings. And we were in awe of how these tadpoles would change into frogs. And I remember my sister saying to Mum, "Oh, there she goes again." And my mother would say to her, "Look, don't worry about her. She'll come back when she's hungry." So I had a real affinity with nature, and it filled my heart intensely being out in nature. So it's a lovely reflection, on how do I affect nature myself? And I noticed that one of the signs in COP29 was solidarity in greening the world. So I looked around my own yard where I live, and it's green. It's beautiful and green. So I'm individually greening my little part of the world. And I think that has a big space in our world of what we are doing individually. But then I go back into, what's happening in COP29. And so as we focus on that gathering at COP29, I think may our hearts be filled with compassion to all of them. And seeing what's happening over there, it's quite a big thing. And even seeing all the messages from our own, what our own Brahma Kumaris are doing over there, it's huge. So I thought about, well, may their minds be guided with wisdom, because it takes a lot of wisdom it's going to take a lot of wisdom to bring this world back to its pristine stage. And so let's hope that something happens there. And so may their minds be guided by wisdom and their actions be driven by love. Such a love for Mother Earth needs to be in our hearts now, because she's suffering just like the human race is suffering. So as we go into silent prayer and meditation in this collective energy, may we nurture the wounds of pollution, climate change, and inequality. As we cultivate courage and cooperation and creativity and a freshness in our vision, we can all see the urgency for a transformative change and a need to protect our planet. The beauty of the planet is just amazing, but she needs our help desperately now. So as we go into the prayer, let's take our reflective minds and see the world as fresh and green. And let's honour its wisdom and ensure a thriving future. So be in solidarity in greening this world. Om Shanti.
There's a lot at stake every day, of everywhere around the world all the time. But when all of the nations gather together to make decisions on actions in dealing with climate change, it does raise the stakes a bit, because what we decide to do matters. And it doesn't just matter for us. It matters for all generations of all species that live with us on this earth. So I think I'm holding that in my heart as I go into these meditations today, because I joined the Australian CANA, Climate Action Network Australia, gave us some feedback and updates yesterday. And the beginning of the second week, it's an important time. So in this case, I'm going to rely less on my words and more on some words I've again found from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who I find brings me much comfort and wisdom. This world is becoming smaller and smaller. Nations are far more interdependent than they were before. Our generation has reached the threshold of a new era of human history, the birth of a global family. Whether we like it or not, all the members of our vast and varied human family have to learn to live together somehow. We need to develop a greater sense of universal responsibility, both at the individual and at the collective level. In the first half of the 20th century, the inhabitants of Earth had no idea of the responsibility we had to our planet. Factories spread far and wide, spilling the wastes into all the natural elements. And strangely enough, nobody was taking any notice. One result has been the ongoing massive extinction of species, the greatest the Earth has seen for 65 million years. And for a Buddhist, this is an abomination. In the past, the long-term effects of our actions were less evident. But today, thanks to science and technology, we're capable of bringing about either great benefits or terrible disasters. The threat of nuclear weapons and humans' ability to destroy the environment can really be alarming. This planet is our home. Taking care of our world and of our planet is like looking after our own home. One can say that the Earth is our mother. She's so good that whatever we do, she puts up with it. But now the time has come where our destructive power is so vast that our mother's obliged to call us to account. It seems the population explosion and climate change and biodiversity loss are clear signs of this. Nature has limits. So, in the end, the only true guardian of peace lies in a sense of concern for our own future and an altruistic concern for the well-being of others. And before we go into silent meditation together, I just wanted to share the idea of one Mahayana Buddhist practice, and it may also be in other Buddhist practices, Tetsu, which in Tibetan it's called Tonglen, and it's exchanging self for others. So when we go about our daily business, we tend to think of ourselves. We're looking out at the world from ourself. And in Tonglen, you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you exchange yourself for others. And this gives you a wider view of what is compassion, what is beneficial action, what it would be like to be another living being on this earth. And in this way, it expands our heart so that we begin to care for other beings as we would care for ourselves and how we would care for our family. It widens the circle of compassion. So I just ask you, if you would, just to take into our time of silence that sense of reflecting with gratitude the blessing we have of this life, and see what we can do in this life to show compassion to ourselves and to all living beings on this earth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elaine, and thank you to organizers of this very important connection meditation of, despite being just 30 minutes, is extremely important. If we had 30 minutes every day to sit and just be with ourselves and with the inner selves, would be very, very helpful. So the idea, that we are having this meditations is regarding the UNCOP 29 in Baku, Azerbaijan. And it's interesting, the Azerbaijan, it actually is part. Sometimes it's Middle East, sometimes it's East Asia, sometimes it's Europe. So depending on who people are talking to. And the topics, and between the topics that they are discussing is action for climate empowerment in children and youth, adaptation and resilience, innovation, global stocktake, mitigation. So they're all very important topics. And hopefully they will be able to come to understand that the theoretical basis has to become alive in the practical sense. Theory is very important, is extremely important. It's just that we cannot stop there. We need to practice what we preach. And it's not in the sense of a preach in terms of dogma, no, in terms of fully understanding. So then even not a preach is actually consciously acknowledging. So nature has patterns, like we all human beings have patterns of behavior. Our body has patterns, the earth has patterns. The cosmos has pattern. We know that the planets that circulate the sun, they all have patterns. They have a certain amount of days that they come to the same position. There is a very interesting saying in Spanish, which is, God always forgive. Man forgive when it's convenient, but nature never forgives. So it is natural that we have, if we're not aware, we have the consequences. So our meditations are for bringing a higher level of consciousness for human beings, that they are understanding that the patterns that they follow have consequences. A greeting from Hovea Ashram. So, and we're going into meditation.
A very good morning to all. It's wonderful to see some familiar faces from my fellow colleagues from Religions for Peace, and a big thank you to the hosts for extending the invitation and providing me with this opportunity to lead you in prayer. Before I start with the prayer, I want to just self-position myself that this prayer comes from me, someone who describes himself as a progressive Muslim and a theologian who subscribes to a process relational approach to the divine. Yeah, so this prayer should be interpreted from within that theological framework. So, in the name of the most compassionate, the most merciful, divine. In the Quran, it is stated as follows. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب. Indeed, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the alteration of the night and the day, are the signs for those of understanding. End quote. We gather here today, united by a shared purpose and deep commitment to our planet. As we stand before you, O Creator of the heavens and the earth, we acknowledge the intricate web of life that binds us all. O Sustainer of all that exists, we recognize that the earth is your creation, a gift entrusted to us. In our pursuit of progress, we often forget our responsibility to protect and nurture this sacred trust. We ask for your guidance as we seek to rectify our actions and restore balance to the environment. Grant us wisdom, O the Most Wise One. Help us to understand the interconnectedness of all beings. May we see not just the trees and the rivers, but the lives and the communities that depend on them. Teach us to listen to the cries of the earth and the voices of those who suffer from climate injustice. Inspire us with compassion, O Most Merciful. Let us be driven by love for our neighbors, both near and far. May we work together across cultures and nations, embodying the spirit of cooperation and solidarity. Help us to act with urgency and determination for the sake of future generations. Guide our actions, O source of all creation. As we deliberate on policies and solutions, may our hearts remain open and our intentions pure. Let us be the stewards of the earth, committed to sustainable practices that honor the delicate balance of your creation. And as we gather here, O ever-present one, remind us that change begins within. May we cultivate a sense of responsibility and humility, recognizing our place in the cosmos. Empower us to be agents of transformation, advocating for the vulnerable and marginalized. In your name, we pray for courage and strength to face the challenges ahead. May our efforts today lead to a brighter, more equitable future for all. Amen.
Thank you for the introduction, and good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Hope you can hear me okay. Thank you, ARRCC, Brahma, Kumaris and Religions Peace Australia. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak again in a series of prayers and meditations throughout Earth on this final day of the 29th Conference of the Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, COP29, in Baku, Azerbaijan. Yes, I'm a member of the Australian Bahai community, and as background, Bahai faith is a worldwide independent religion that originated in the mid-19th century in Iran, then known as Persia. We Baha'is are united in our commitment to the oneness of humanity, based on the teachings of the prophet founder of the Bahai faith, Baha'u'llah. The earth is but one country, and mankind its citizens. There are two key themes in the Baha'i scriptures embedded within Baha'i belief and teachings about the human relationship with nature and the natural environment. First of these, nature reflects the sacred and the majesty and expression of the divine purpose of God. And humanity is at one with nature. Everything in the natural world is supremely ordered, interconnected, and interdependent. A fundamental principle of Baha'i belief, as well as the harmony of science and religion, two complementary knowledge systems, providing the scientific knowledge and technology, ethical foundations for environmental stewardship, and spiritual motivation to foster unity and address contemporary environmental challenges. The Baha'i International Community, BIC, well-known United Nations affiliated NGO that speaks for and represents the worldwide Baha'i community at an international level. The BIC has been involved in significant and consequential public discourse about the natural environment and anthropogenic climate change for decades, and there have been representatives of the BIC in attendance at all recent annual COPs. In preparation for COP29 in Baku, Azerbaijan, participating BIC representatives are motivated through their Baha'i worldview to focus on four faith-based contemporary questions in their dialogue and discussions with international stakeholders. So these are Does self-interest impede climate action? What duty do we hold to future generations? What values and principles should guide our response to climate change? And what are the components of a just and sustainable society? A notable component of COP29 this year was the Faith Pavilion under the banner of Bringing Faith to Climate Frontlines. This important innovation began at COP28 in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, in November, December last year. It brings together a diverse coalition of religions and faiths and provides a platform for exploring and amplifying the crucial intersections between faith, climate justice, and environmental stewardship. The Faith Pavilion at COP aims to mobilise and unite ethical and religious voices to inspire hope and to promote collective action to address climate challenges. As we know, COP29 was known as the Finance COP, and it had a particular focus on making available trillions of dollars in finance to developing nations for urgent climate action. COP29 had its moments, of course, and I'm sure these will be elaborated on by Bishop Philippa a bit later. So at the beginning of the conference, at a time of record high global temperatures and associated with extreme weather events impacting on all of humanity, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres had a stark message for the assembled world leaders that 2024 is a masterclass in climate destruction. It's quite a speech that he gave at the very beginning. In mid-conference, climate experts in an open letter to the United Nations describe the COP as no longer fit for purpose. I'm not sure that's a matter of discussion as well. In its current format, and it needs to move from being a platform of negotiation into a space for implementation. In conclusion, as we look forward with hope and optimism to future reformed annual COPs, COP30 in Belém, Brazil in November 2025, and hopefully COP31 in 2026 in the Pacific or Australia, which are bidding to be host. I'm inspired to reflect on the holy scriptures of the Bahai faith with a statement illustrating the imperative for humanity to respect and protect the natural world. We cannot segregate the human heart from the environment outside us and say that once one of these is reformed, everything will be improved. Man is organic with the world. His inner life molds the environment and is itself also deeply affected by it. The one acts upon the other, and every abiding change in the life of man is the result of these mutual reactions. And that's from a letter written on behalf of Shoghi Effendi, guardian of the Bahai faith and direct descendant of Baha'u'llah, in February 1933. Well, thank you everybody for attending today, and thank you for listening. So
So now I am going to hand over to Bishop Philippa Huggins to close our sessions. So over to you, Philip.
Thank you. And thank you also, Ron, and your image of from the Bahai tradition of our one human family on this beautiful planet of divine creation. Our oneness really, it goes to what we've just been listening to and you've been saying about it essentially being a spiritual issue, that quality of awareness of our common humanity and our bond with all creation. And so we've made our contribution as best we can over these last couple of weeks, and in the way of the divine, we don't know all of the effect of it, but we've been faithful to that which we've been in a position to offer. And that gives us some peace, doesn't it? That we've been faithful to making the contribution, the gift that we can make. And certainly the other day when I've been having these meetings, which are 3:30 our time here in the East Coast, which is early morning in Bahai. And I told the people there of the way that we've been meeting, and people felt so touched to know that here in Australia and in our region, people were making this contribution. They felt really supported and encouraged. So spiritually and emotionally, we've given that lift to those who've been aware of our contribution. And they were at that point, they were quite weary. So it just gave them a kind of a bit of a boost to know that we were being faithful to this, that we'd committed to doing. There's another one of those gatherings in a couple of hours. As we left it off last night, it's still not really clear quite what's been accomplished at the COP. There was, and they're all still asleep, presumably, getting up soon. There was the thought that it might be extended again for another couple of days to try and finalise some of the negotiations. There was clearly been some movement in the finance area, and some nations have made significant contributions, but the quantum of that is not yet clear. It is that 7-year-old said, how many more COPs are we going to have? It is in a way an odd model where people come together in this sort of rushed way and spend the first week getting over jet lag, many of them. And then in the second week, there's this intensity of negotiations. The texts themselves are very detailed, and every phrase has to be agreed by consensus. So earlier in the week, some of the key documents, including the finance one, had lots of brackets in it, which meant that there were things still being negotiated. Some of them were saying last night that there's a lot less brackets in some of the documents. So, the process of negotiation, though it does seem very slow, it reflects, I suppose, the spiritual health or lack of health of our planetary life, that building trust has to be done so carefully, and to make people feel confident that the things they're agreeing to, others will be reliable and trustworthy in their part of the agreement. All of that requires a lot of detail, technical detail and clarity of language. So, it's one of those things. If it wasn't there, we'd have to reinvent it, really. We'd need some place where the human family gathers and tries to respond to this need to diminish global warming and prevent anything catastrophic further happening to the human family and all other species. All we're doing is trying to add to the trust and the affection between people. out of the trust and affection we feel ourselves in the divine. So thank you again, everybody who's contributed. In the process of this, we become friends, and that's a lovely thing. Yes, so thank you.